Good morning, everybody. This is Izzy Silvester from West Somerset, and with me this morning, I have a very special guest, and she's very special because for the last few months, Carolyn Smith has been doing a fantastic job at looking after the Somerset village agents and the rest of the team. So what I mean by that is she's been keeping a close eye on us in terms of making sure our stress levels are not getting too high. And she's also been dispensing lots of practical, down-to-earth advice on what to do every day to just alleviate those stress levels, and little top tips on what we might do at the beginning of the day. So we're starting the day right and just helping us get through some tough times, because we, like you out there, sometimes find it very difficult. We find it very difficult first thing in the morning. We're just wondering, can we do our best? Are we going to do a great job supporting you? If we're feeling a little low, sometimes having a toolbox of ideas can make quite a difference to our day. So first of all, I'd love to introduce Carolyn and for her to tell her who she is and what her background is. So how has she come to do the work she's doing with us now?
Okay, so lovely to see you all this morning. So as Izzy says, I'm Carolyn, and my background is working primarily within mental health services, a lot actually within Somerset. I've worked in Somerset for, around about 17, 18 years or so. So when I first came to Somerset, I was working in mental health services in the NHS, and then I went on to manage mental health services and also within the county council. And then I started practicing yoga, and I realised that yoga made a massive difference to how I was feeling. So my job was really stressful, of course, it was really busy. And just that practice of yoga, in fact, the very first time I practiced, I'd done some years before, but not for a long time. The very first time I practiced, the yoga teacher got us all to lie down at the start of the class. And I really noticed then that my heart was racing really fast, my breath was really shallow up in my chest, all signs of stress. And it really was a bit of a wake-up call, and it made me feel so different. I kept coming back. And then I found I loved it so much, and it made such a difference. It really changed my life, and how it's enabled me to cope with stress in a very, very different way. So I then came up with the idea of teaching yoga and teaching it for mental health. And so I gave up my job in mental health, it's probably about 3 years ago now, and set up on my own. So I do a combination now of mental health work and bring yoga into that. And I've been really privileged actually to be working with all of the amazing agents across the county. So incredibly, I have to say this, they are so incredibly dedicated, and the amount of work and the amount of themselves they put into the work is phenomenal. So it has been a real privilege to get to know them all, and and to be able to play just a little role in order to try to help out during this really difficult time. So
what I was going to begin by asking you, because I spoke recently to two of the spiritual leaders in West Somerset, and I was asking them, what are their top tips essentially on starting the day for them? Because they both said that they sometimes struggle with that start, wondering if they're going to be courageous enough, compassionate enough to do a good job. Mm-hmm. So I just wondered, have you a few top tips on ways of just beginning the day to just put that focus in? Over to you, Carolyn. What would you suggest to anybody out there who's struggling?
I think one of the key things in the morning, if you're waking up in the morning and already started to get thoughts flying through your head about, oh my goodness, I've got this to do, this to do, am I going to be able to do it? You know, we are going straight in then to fight and flight mode, which is exactly what, you know, what our ancestors have done, you know, when they were under threat, you know, a long time ago. They would go into fight and flight if they were about to be attacked, say by somebody else or a big animal. And that would mean that, you know, blood would rush to the muscles, we would breathe differently, the heart would start racing in order that we can either attack the threat or run away from it. And the same thing happens to us today, even though we can't discharge that because, you know, waking up in bed, all sorts of thoughts flying through your mind, you know, we've got nothing to fight or to run away from, you know, it's in our minds. So one of the things that we want to do is to try to switch that, to switch away from fight and flight. And one of the best things I find to do in the morning is actually to take a few minutes breathing. And you can do this even before you get out of bed. So it
Even better.
Even better, exactly. You can just actually lie there and, you know, and really focus on breathing. And I can share a really simple breathing technique with you in a few minutes, Izzy, if that's, you know, everybody else.
That would be really, really useful. Thank you.
And it only takes 3 to 5 minutes for it to make a real difference. So an extra 3 to 5 minutes in bed is not a bad thing in the morning, but it can really sort of take away that fight and flight, can make a real difference. It does take a bit of practice. It doesn't always work straight away, but the more you practice it, then start to feel a real benefit. I'd also recommend doing it at night as well, because if you think, if we go to sleep and you've got lots of thoughts racing around about the day and sort of worrying about things, and particularly if you wake up in the night, if you can actually calm yourself before you go to bed, then there's more chance of sleeping well. And then again, first thing in the morning, they're really, really simple things to do. I would just add something.
Yeah.
If there is anxiety present as well as, you know, that feeling of stress, often it can be really, really hard to relax. Okay. And when we're anxious or stressed for more than a few weeks, the body gets stuck in that stress state. So for some people, you might need to discharge some energy. So to actually do something, doesn't have to be really hard physical exercise. You know, it could be going for a brisk walk, you know, sort of late in the day. It could be doing a few gentle stretches, but that can help to discharge some of that real energy that comes with fight and flight, which is there in anxiety and stress, before trying to calm things down with some breathing or maybe some relaxation.
So is it too much to ask that you could perhaps show us one or two of those exercises?
Absolutely, no problem at all. Are you going to do them as well, Izzy?
I'm going to try. I'm here. Yeah, I've got enough
Excellent. Okay, right, well, I'm going to move back because you'll need to see me a little bit more. So, sorry, excuse me, scooting back on my chair. Oh, that horrible scraping noise. I tell you what, I'm going to put this down a little bit. There we go. And hopefully I might be somewhere in the middle. Just need to be able, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Okay, so you don't have to do this sitting. You could do it lying down, and actually it's really nice to do lying down, particularly if you're going to give it a go in the morning. So what I'm going to suggest that you do is take the hands really low down onto the tummy, so below the belly button, really low down, and have the feet flat on the floor. That's if you're sitting. If you're lying down, just make yourself super comfortable with the hands on the belly. And then I'm going to suggest that you close the eyes if that feels okay. If it doesn't feel okay, just have a soft gaze. So not looking at anything in particular. Okay. And to start with, just try to get a sense of where your breath is within the body. So we're just noticing, first of all, so we can see if it started to make changes. So you may notice the breath is really high and shallow, or low down, or somewhere in the middle. When we're stressed, anxious, it's up here. And what we want to do is to bring it right down. So just being aware where the breath is. And then what I'm going to encourage you to do is to see if you can breathe into your hands. So as you inhale really gently, you don't have to take big breaths, See if you can breathe so your tummy touches the hands ever so gently. And then when you exhale, feel the hands just drawing back a little bit towards the spine. So really, really gentle breaths. And it may be really hard to start with, particularly if you're not used to breathing in this way. If it feels that the breath is still really high up in the chest, don't force it down because that really won't work. So sit for a little while and encourage the breath to start dropping down, so bit by bit, just encouraging it. Okay. It's very different to what we often do in life. You know, when we sort of push towards things, this is about doing less. So as you're trying to breathe into the belly and maybe starting to feel the tummy rising and falling as you breathe, what I'm going to invite you to do is to see if you can soften the shoulders. See if you can let the shoulders drop right down, nice and soft. And have the lips together, a little gap between the teeth. So you're breathing through the nostrils, unless for any reason that's really uncomfortable or you've got any sinus issues, for instance. So really, really gentle breathing. The other thing to notice is if you're leaning forwards a little bit. So if you're leaning forwards, it doesn't give space for the rib cage, the lungs to expand. So sitting nice and tall or lying flat is a great way to do this if that's suitable for you. Let's take just a few more breaths here, feeling the tummy just rising and falling ever so gently. And you might find that all sorts of thoughts start to pop into your mind. So every time any thoughts come into the mind, see if you can just bring the attention back to the breath. And the mind is always wandering. That's just what it does. It's a little bit like a muscle in the sense that we can train it. So we can train our muscles to get stronger through exercise. And we can also train our mind to stop jumping around quite as much. So as you're breathing into the tummy now, or towards the tummy, see if you can start to make each breath last a little bit longer. So no forcing. You might even be able to hear the sound of your breath, which for some people that can be really nice, really soothing. So really nice, gentle breaths. There's no rush. There's nothing really to do here at all other than just to breathe, making some space for ourselves. And it's a really simple thing to do, but often we overlook those simple things, looking for complex solutions. That's what we do. That's what we do as people. So let's just take a few more breaths here. If you can feel the tummy rising and falling. And you may notice that your shoulders might be tensing up again. See if you can really let them drop. You've got your feet on the floor. Let the feet feel heavy on the floor. Particularly if you're lying down, feel the whole body getting heavier. As the breath becomes even more gentle, even more subtle. And then slowly start to become aware of your surroundings again. And you may want to give your fingers or your toes a little wiggle. And then gradually open your eyes as you come back into your room. How did you get on, Izzy? You come forward again.
Thank you.
It's probably a bit hard to feel really relaxed while you're there, you know, sort of at work doing a talking cafe live. But, you know, it's the sort of thing that if you, let me just lift this up a bit, if you practice it regularly, it makes a real difference. And I've been running some courses recently around stress and anxiety, and quite a number of the people have said the breath, the breathing is one of the most useful things. And I'll let you into a little secret here with the rest of Somerset. So when I was still working in my former job, you know, if I found a meeting really difficult, then I would be doing that breathing exercise under the table. because nobody can see. No one's got a clue what you are doing. You know, if you've got a table in front of you, you can even do it while you're sat in your car. You know, if you've driven somewhere or you're waiting in a supermarket queue, it's portable. So I think it's in terms of top tips, that is the number one tip, number one thing to have in your toolkit. So.
It's interesting how breath, because that's one of the basics of yoga, isn't it? And I know there's a huge amount of work gone on, well, in places like Russia with all sorts of different lung diseases. And the main thing that Russian scientist Batiko, the main thing he was using for emphysema was in fact breathing. So it's absolutely fascinating how important it is, and to hear your experience. I hope everybody listening will be able to take that on board, because it's absolutely incredible. Yeah, and I could really feel that. I could really feel that little space that it's given me. I've had a slightly bonkers couple of hours actually, and then that's given me a little regenerative boost.
Good.
So thank you so much. And
the other thing, sorry, Izzy, I was talking. I'm just going to say the other thing, to mention on the back of that, you know, if you're waking up in the morning and starting to think, oh gosh, I've got this day in front of me, how am I going to get through it? You know, when we're in fight and flight, when we're feeling stressed or maybe anxious, we can often get sort of brain fog. Okay, so very difficult to think clearly. You know, everything can feel really overwhelming, and that's one of the other benefits of coming back to the breath just for a few minutes. You know, it can actually start to reverse that, enable us to think a bit more clearly, as well as getting that space. So,
and if somebody was looking for a scientific reason for that, that's probably a simple thing to do with oxygen, isn't it? Oxygenating the blood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It switches on. I won't go deeply into the science behind it, but the fight and flight response is associated with the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, and when we breathe low down, it switches on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of fight and flight. Interestingly, when we're stressed, anxious, when there's a threat, our bodies respond really, really quickly. So, you know, if something were to, you know, make us jump or frighten us, then you know how the body responds really super quickly. And, you know, with calming, it does take longer. So it's almost like a highway, the sympathetic system, you know, a fast motorway. And the parasympathetic system is slower, which is why 3 to 5 minutes to make a difference.
Okay.
And to do it really regularly. That is really key, because that will help overall how you are feeling. It makes that difference between being stuck in fight and flight to starting to get the body to be more flexible, to be able to move, because we don't want to lose a stress response, because sometimes we're going to need it. Sometimes we need it to get out of bed in the morning, you know, some motivation. But, you know, you want the body to be able to move between the two and to be able to relax and come back to that sort of equilibrium. So, yeah.
Were you going to just show us one or two exercises as well that you could recommend? Because, again, you know, just one or two, something that would be memorable. And is there a way of anybody out there tapping in to any of these top tips? Or I just wonder if you do any online yoga or anything like that. And how do people who perhaps haven't got that much money avail of that information? Because that's quite a tricky thing for us, as you know, with our work.
Absolutely, absolutely. So everything I'm doing at the moment is online, and it's likely to be for, you know, for some time into next year, I think. I will do some face-to-face things again, but I think there will still be part of my work that stays online, because it's a lot more accessible for a lot of people. So I have got a website, and I think the link's going to be popped up if it hasn't been already. I don't know. It's www.carolinsmith.org. And if by magic it sort of appeared there, that's amazing. Okay, so I've got a website that you can look at. I've also got a Facebook page. If you just look up Carolyn Smith Yoga and Mental Health. And, you know, actually making yoga and what I do accessible has been one of the main drivers for me, because, you know, I think it's so important. There's so many techniques that can make a massive amount of difference to people. So a lot of people obviously pay to come along to what I do, or virtually, of course, at the moment. But what that does is that helps to subsidise some free places. So I've got a limited number of free places all of the time. Okay. So if anybody thinks, yeah, I'd really like to learn more about this and have a go, then if they email me or send me a message through the website, then we can have a conversation. So yeah, and all they would need is computer and iPad, or, you know, something to be able to link online on Zoom. And there's classes several days a week. So it's a really nice, friendly community too. So we always stay online after classes for a few minutes just to say hello, and in case you do social events. So yeah, so it's a real nice way of getting support alongside the yoga.
Thank you. That's absolutely wonderful news, Carolyn. I'm sure it's going to be really helpful to quite a number of people.
Well, it'd be lovely to see some new people getting involved. So please feel free to get in touch if you'd like to do that. It's you know, it's something I'm really, really passionate about.
Thank you. So would you like to take us through one or two exercises now?
Absolutely. Let me get rid of my shoes. Got some sandals on here, so I'm going to get rid of my glasses as well because I'll probably knock them off. So I'm going to move back, and we're going to use a chair because, you know, just making sure these are accessible for everybody. Don't know how far I'm going to have to go back here. Right. Just a quick question. If I lift my left arm up, does it look like my left arm is up, or does it look like my right is up?
That's your right.
Okay, right. So I need to do the opposite, otherwise it's going to get really, really confusing. So these simple yoga stretches that we're going to do, they should be suitable for most people, but obviously if you have got any health issues or you're worried something may get in the way of yoga, then please do get it checked out, or, you know, get in touch with me privately and, you know, via the website, and I can always, you know, hopefully point you in the right direction. So let's start off sitting, and sit really tall on your seat. So if you're sat a long way back, what happens is the back starts to round. So I want to be sitting nice and tall, feet flat on the floor. And we're going to start just with the shoulders because it's lovely to start with the shoulders. So we're going to breathe at the same time. So as you inhale gently, see if you can shrug the shoulders all the way up towards the ears, and then exhale, letting them drop down. Inhale, shrug the shoulders right up to the ears. Exhale, see if you can let them drop. You often feel them dropping lower from the ears. Inhale and exhale. Let's give the shoulders a few circles now. Imagine that you're moving the shoulders from the shoulder blades, so right on the back, sort of here, rather than the tops of the shoulders. So see if you can really feel that movement. We often get a lot of tension up in our neck, in our shoulders, all of this upper body area. So this is a really simple thing that you can do. Let's do some circles the other way now. Really nice big circles. And then just come back to the center. I'm going to do a very simple head stretch, neck stretch really. So if you take your right hand up now, and just place it onto the opposite side of the head. And we're not going to pull the head, we're just going to use the weight of the hand to gently let the head come over to the side. And then let the shoulder, the opposite shoulder, drop down. So you may start to feel really nice sort of amount of space opening up. You may feel this. So try and breathe into your tummy as we did when we were doing the breathing exercise. And if your eyes are moving around a lot, see if you can just look at something not interesting. It's like a spot on the floor or on the wall. And then what we're going to do is take the hand to the other side of the head. Use the hand to bring the head up so we're not using those muscles we've just stretched. And then we'll do the same on the other side. So left hand up, and then letting the head come over to the side. So drop the right shoulder down and breathe nice and gently. So you can breathe into the tummy. It's a really lovely way of trying to ease out tension from the neck. And of course you can do this anywhere. So then slowly slide the hand to the other side of the head, and then we'll bring the head all the way up. Another simple one. I'm going to turn sideways on so you can see this. Sorry about that scraping noise from my chair. So I'm going to sit really far forward on my chair. I'm going to place my hands on my knees, feet firmly on the floor. And then as I inhale, I'm going to take my chest forward. And as I exhale, I'm going to round through the spine. So inhaling, gently bringing the chest forward. And exhale, coming back. And again, these are targeting the upper areas of the back, the shoulders too. Inhale and exhale. And you can do these at your own pace. So really sort of finding a rhythm that works for you. Always inhaling very gently on the way forwards. And then exhaling on the way back. And you haven't got to make a lot of movement. It may be really, really gentle, just moving a little bit. And when we move, let me turn back around, in this very gentle way, this is also calming for the nervous system. So it's taking us away from fight and flight. And then I'm going to show you one more. Okay, so I'm going to come to stand. We're going to use the chair. And I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this. And this is to give a nice stretch to the whole of the back of the body. How far back have I got to go? All right. So what we're going to do, oh no, we brought this forward. It's very funny because me on screen, I go an opposite way to what I go in person. So placing the hands just on a chair and then starting to walk the feet backwards. So you may only go a little way or you may come much, much further. So you can really stretch out the arms, the shoulders, backs of the legs, and you're keeping the spine nice and straight here. And just looking down to the floor. And I'd suggest holding this for quite a few breaths. We always talk in breaths in yoga. And you're pressing back through the hips and reaching forward with the fingers. And then when you're ready, start to come all the way back up. But you don't have to go as far as I was there. So it's just going, you don't want to feel any pain. What we're looking to feel is just a little bit of sensation. You can feel that you're doing something, but it's not too much. So nice and gentle. So there we go. Come back to sit down now. So just a little taster of a few little stretches that can be really helpful. So.
Thank you. I think that's really, really useful, Carolyn, and thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to leave it there unless you've got anything else to add, because I think I just sort of respect other people's time and the fact that I'd really love people to just focus in on this breathing and those lovely exercises. And if people can take those home as their own little toolkit, their mental health toolkit, I think absolutely wonderful. And thank you again. Thank you so much for coming on this morning to share that and to share the good news about those free classes for those people who really can't afford the price. Thank you, Carolyn.
Absolutely. You're so welcome, Izzy, and it's lovely to see you. So we'll probably see you very soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.